Hello, welcome back. Today I'm back at the Riverside Cemetery in Denver, Colorado. It is the oldest operating cemetery here in Denver. We're going to be visiting the grave of Oliver Marcelle, the greatest third baseman in baseball history, who also brought black baseball here in Colorado. So I'm going to tell you about his story as we walk over to his grave. So I wanted to show you guys this cool little mausoleum here. And it looks like there's some, they used it for these soldiers here as well. It says in memory of John Waswatchki, age 25 years, October 23rd, 1918 over there. And then in memory of Theodore Dorak, aviation radio man, first class. July 4th, 1920, killed in action. Wow. March 19th, 1945, in South Pacific. Yeah, very interesting. But I think this one, this Greek-looking one here is in memory of the great Serbian hero and martyr and all of our Serbian Orthodox brethren. Huh. That's very cool looking. It is quite a unique one. Oliver Marcelle, nicknamed Ghost, was an American third baseman in the Negro Leagues for a number of teams around the league from 1918 to 1931. Born sometime in 1897 in Louisiana. Now it's kind of unclear when his exact birthday was. There's a draft registration card that states it was June 1st, 1895. But there's some other records that say, and his sons also say, that it was June 24th, 1897. So I think on the grave they put 1897 as that is the most likely year he was born. But in 1920, Oliver had launched his baseball career. He took to the field for the New Orleans Eagles and other local African-American semi-pro squads. It was during his tenure in New Orleans that Oliver met his eventual wife, Hazel Taylor, a New Orleans native born in 1896. Hazel and Oliver tied the knot on June 8th, 1914. In January 1915, their first child, Oliver Jr., was born in New Orleans. A second son, Everett, followed a year later. Everett would go on to have a successful but turbulent professional athletic career in his own right in multiple sports. Oliver Jr. spent the rest of his life in New Orleans working as a cook, a porter, and a janitor at City Hall. Hazel and Oliver parted ways as Oliver's baseball career took off. By the time the 1930 U.S. Census was taken, Oliver was living in New York City without Hazel, whom he had left behind in New Orleans to raise Oliver Jr. and Everett. By 1918, Oliver had hitched on with the Brooklyn Royal Giants, followed by the Detroit Stars, and most famously, the Bacharach Giants of Atlantic City, New Jersey, and the New York Lincoln Giants, with whom he was named captain in 1924 despite his youth. He also played in Cuba for several seasons. Although Ghost was a top-class hitting infielder, his defensive skills took center stage by comparison. He was considered by most to be the greatest fielding third baseman in the league throughout the 1920s and possibly of all time. Ghost was known for a terrible temper. Umpires and opponents commonly got into arguments with him, and even teammates sometimes fighting him. There is a story that Oliver once hit Oscar Charleston in the head with a bat. In May 1925, when he and teammates Dave Brown and Frank Wickware were involved in a barroom fight in which Brown apparently shot and killed a man. Oliver and Wickware were detained and questioned, but released after being cleared in the murder. Brown lived as a fugitive for the rest of his life. In 1930, there was another incident with a teammate, Frank Warfield, reportedly bit Oliver's nose off after the two got into a fight when both men were playing in the Cuban Winter League. Once Oliver lost the majority of his nose to Warfield's teeth, his career entered into a rapid downslide. He was forced to wear a black eye patch over the injury, and it severely hampered his playing ability. Ghost didn't play very much longer after that. Oliver quit playing ball in 1930 and coached for a while. In 1933, he toured with the Miami Giants and ended up in Denver. In 1934, the Denver Post sponsored one of the biggest semi-pro baseball tournaments, and Oliver convinced the editor to invite the Kansas City Monarchs, a black team whose pitcher was Satchel Paige. It is believed that Oliver sped up the integration of baseball, as the next year Denver's baseball teams were integrated. I hope I can find his grave out here. There's a lot of flat headstones. So Oliver was a laborer in Denver, doing house painting and other odd jobs. And sadly, he died in poverty in 1949. Now, he was originally buried in an unmarked grave, and a mortgage broker by the name of Sanford learned about Oliver while he was studying the Negro League, and he started an effort to mark his grave. With the help of the Denver Zephyrs and the Colorado Rockies, there was a ceremony on June 1st, 1991, unveiling the headstone for the ghost. Oliver Marcelle was inducted into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame in 1996. Oh, I think it's right here, guys. See Oliver the Ghost Marcelle, 1897 to 1949. Baseball's best third baseman, brought professional black baseball to Colorado. John Buck O'Neill teammate. Yeah, so this is the headstone that people helped get him. Originally, he didn't have a marker out here. It looks like there's a lot in this section that's probably unmarked. It's kind of way out at the end of the cemetery. It does have a nice view of the mountains, though. But yeah, it is kind of out here by some buildings. You can see the main cemetery is way over that way. And then you have some energy things out here. But yeah, so I saw that there are two different reasons why people called him the ghost. So one is because he had lightning quick reflexes and his ability to seemingly appear out of nowhere and snare a hard hit line drive and then magically appear just like a ghost to throw out the batter. And then another reason is he would disappear after the game, not to be seen in his hotel room, and then reappear the next day at the ballpark. So I know he did have, you know, in his later life, he also drank a lot, and the reason for his death was actually heart disease. So kind of a sad ending for Oliver, and who knows where his career could have gone. Hope you enjoyed that video and getting to see the grave of Oliver the Ghost Marcelle. Please like and subscribe for some more videos, and I'll see you at the next grave. Thanks.